does not give you immunity from arrest and prosecution. Bringing children with you doesn't guarantee you won't get prosecuted. Cannot be. And I would cite you to the Apostle Paul and his clear and wise command in Romans 13 to obey the laws of the government, because God has ordained the government for his purposes.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions there, citing the Bible today as justification for a Trump policy separating parents and children who enter the country illegally. At today's White House briefing, things got intense when Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked repeatedly about Sessions' comments and the policy change.
I can say that it is very biblical to enforce the law. That is actually repeated a number of times throughout the Bible.
Well, I think what the American people have learned in the last 15 months is that people of faith all across this nation have a champion in President Donald Trump. A year ago, he said we were a nation of faith. And he took action last year to make sure that the federal government never imposed on the religious liberty of Americans, like in cases like the Little Sisters of the Poor. But this year, the president signed an executive order in the Rose Garden, David, that establishes a policy initiative within the White House that puts faith really at the center of policy development. You know, virtually every agency has a faith-based office that sees to the impact on communities of all types of faith in this country, of various agency efforts. But this is really about making sure that as we develop policies for the country, that we're always making room for those unalienable rights, the free exercise of religion that Americans cherish.
I am announcing our next step, the Religious Liberty Task Force, to be co-chaired by the Associate Attorney General, Jesse, and the Assistant Attorney General for Office of Legal Policy, Beth. The task force will help the department fully implement our religious liberty guidance by ensuring that all Justice Department components, and we got a lot of components around the country, are upholding that guidance in the cases they bring and defend, the arguments they make in court, the policies and regulations they adopt, and how we conduct our operations.
Like a state dinner. That's what participants are saying about the scene at the White House tonight. But the president was not honoring foreign dignitaries. The focus was on evangelical leaders. As we mentioned earlier, the president made some news there tonight saying he appreciates the work of Senator John McCain. But that's not all he had to say. Pastor of First Baptist Dallas, Dr. Robert Jeffress, the Fox News contributor, was there. He joins us tonight live in Washington. Good to have you on set with us tonight.
Good to be here in person, Shannon.
Okay, so tell us about this dinner. I understand the president talked about your support, evangelical support of him, and what he's tried to do in return.
Well, he did. And, you know, I guess the headline from the evening would be evangelicals remain enthusiastically supportive of President Trump.
There are people on the right who want to impose Christian Sharia law in this country. And what I mean by that is they want to turn the Bible to the law of our land. Mike Huckabee has literally said, you cannot change the Constitution, but you can't change the Bible, but you can change the Constitution to agree with the Bible. Rick Santorum has said that our laws must comport with the Bible. There are people who want to turn America into the Christian version of Saudi Arabia. And this Supreme Court pick might just
Congress and President Trump in the White House, the power of the U.S. courts is becoming increasingly apparent and politicized. Republicans have a prime opportunity to leave their mark on the nation's courts.
It's always been that Republicans, for some reason, care more about the courts than Democrats do.
Supreme Court justices. That's it. That's all you have to think.
And Donald Trump really capitalized on that in this past election.
More than a quarter of Trump voters said the Supreme Court was the most important issue to them. With that momentum behind him, Trump entered the White House with 108 vacancies for federal judges with life terms. That's 1/8 of the nation's 870 federal judges, more than any president since Bill Clinton.
President Obama faced a Republican Senate in his last 2 years, and those Republicans really blocked his nominees. That left a lot of openings to be filled right away at almost historic levels.
The Senate continues our work to confirm President Trump's well-qualified judicial nominees.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has made courts one of his priorities.
It's my top priority. So as soon as they come out of committee, if I have a choice between taking up a particular bill or taking up a circuit court judge, I take up a circuit court judge because I think it makes the longest lasting contribution to making this the kind of country it ought to be.
As older judges continue to retire, Trump is handed more vacancies. 18 months in, 145 vacancies waited to be filled. Trump had nominated 137 federal judges at that point. Only 43 of them were appointed by the Senate, but that's on par with past presidents. And by the end of Trump's term in 2020, more than half of all life-term judges will be eligible for retirement.
The Venezuelan government recently rolled out a new version of a national ID card, the Carnet de la Patria, also known as the Fatherland Card, used for everything from buying subsidized groceries to signing up for healthcare. But the card is now raising alarm bells. Reuters has learned that President Nicolás Maduro's government hired the controversial Chinese telecom giant ZTE last year to build a database linked to the card. According to contracts and internal government documents, as well as interviews with dozens of state and ZTE employees, Reuters found that Maduro's government isn't just using the cards to identify citizens, but also to monitor them by storing their personal information.
Hi there, Susie and Peter. Yeah, the idea behind all of this is to provide better customer service according to the patent application. The question, though, is where would these devices be installed and how will customers handle it? What you say inside Walmart may stay inside Walmart computers for an extended period. Walmart submitted a patent for listening devices. In the application, the description of the system says the devices could be used to record employees, and the audio data could then be analyzed to determine whether staffers provided solid customer service. The idea is sparking some controversy.
By 2020, China plans to give all of its 1.4 billion citizens a personal score based on how they behave. So some people with low scores are already being punished if they want to travel. Nearly 11 million Chinese people can no longer fly, and 4 million are barred from trains. Next week, the program will start expanding nationwide. Ben Tracy is in China with what's behind the government's scoring system. Ben, this sounds like scary stuff. Good morning.
Good morning. The government here says it is trying to purify society by rewarding those who are trustworthy and punishing those who are not. So like the credit score that most Americans get for how they handle their finances, Chinese citizens are now getting social credit scores based on everything from whether they pay their taxes on time to how they cross the street.
Facebook is judging you. We've just learned that the massive social network actually has a secret scoring system all about you and me. The Washington Post reports that Facebook is rating your trustworthiness, giving you a secret reputation score, all based on your online actions. Apparently, Facebook has been developing this secret rating system for about a year. The platform says the goal is to help fight fake news.
He would always have his hands on me.
When you have the priest touching you every day, you know, that's a hard memory to
In today's painful headlines, tonight, survivors of pre-sexual abuse like Sean Doherty see a glimmer of hope.
If this report does not eliminate the statutes of limitations, what is it going to take?
The blistering grand jury report names more than 300 predator priests and accuses dozens of church officials of covering up. And this is just one state, Pennsylvania.
Priests were raping little boys and girls, and the men of God who were responsible for them not only did nothing, they hid it all.
More than 1,000 victims in all. Some shared their story in a video.
I was groomed starting young.
They targeted me because I was fatherless.
He would always have his hands on me.
In case after case, the report says, church leaders maintained a circle of silence.
Predators in every diocese weaponized the Catholic faith and used it as a tool of their abuse.
Exodus from an earthquake. Extraordinary scenes on a vacation beach. Hundreds trying to escape. Boats overwhelmed. They'd survived this, a 1-minute-long deadly quake felt by millions that sent many running for their lives. Here as a ceiling collapses.
Strike overseas with little warning and with more than 200 people killed on the northwest coast of Java, Indonesia. Footage from inside a band performance appearing to show the wall of water, you see it right there, surging through the venue. Less than a half hour earlier, the Anak Krakatoa volcano, 60 miles offshore, erupting with underwater landslides, apparently triggering that massive wave. Onshore, scenes of complete devastation. boats and vehicles tossed, homes washed out, as first responders are searching the debris right now for survivors.
Watch as molten rock, ash, and debris all explode hundreds of feet into the air off the coast of Hawaii's Big Island Monday. In the crosshairs, this lava tour boat. Carrying over 50 passengers and crew. This passenger video capturing the chaotic moments after the explosion.
It just exploded straight out at the boat. We could hear the rocks hit the boat and the people yelling.
Authorities say the boat was on a tour when a lava bomb fueled by the erupting Kilauea volcano went off. A boulder the size of a basketball smashing through the roof, injuring almost 2 dozen
Severe
people
weather in
on
Branson,
board.
all part of the same system, now threatening tornadoes tonight. 40 million Americans are on alert at this hour. This tornado reported just a short time ago in Middletown, Indiana, and it comes after a devastating outbreak in Iowa. 27 reported tornadoes, this one in Bondurant as we came on the air last night, crossing the road in a cloud of debris. And look inside the EF3 tornado that devastated downtown Marshalltown, 144-mile-an-hour wind. And just stunning damage from the EF3 in Pella, 144-mile-an-hour winds, shattering cars and building parts twisted together there.
Flooding. So that's Fountain Creek right here. Woo!
High winds, exactly what firefighters feared most, are now hitting Southern California, fueling those out-of-control wildfires. This as the death toll is growing. 250,000 people have been told to get out and stay out in Southern California as wind-whipped flames from the Woolsey fire triggered mandatory evacuations, including the entire city of Malibu. The fire line today, you see it there on the move towards several new neighborhoods. Many multi-million-dollar homes threatened and at least 2 confirmed dead. To the north, devastation and despair. At least 23 confirmed dead in the Camp Fire, now the state's deadliest since 1991. And there are roughly 100 people still unaccounted for. These images from the mountain town of Paradise, a hellscape. Nearly 7,000 structures completely gone.
A special climate summit will bring together all of the different groups that play.
California is not waiting for Trump. We know that you can talk the talk, but now it's time to.
Our message to local leaders needs to be inescapable. No more stalling, no more delays. It's time to act.
This September 8th, let's show world leaders what real climate leadership looks like.
Real climate leadership means guaranteeing good jobs to impacted workers and communities.
Real climate leadership means no new fossil fuel anywhere.
Building a new economy for all, leaving no one behind.
100% renewable fracking must be banned.
We're organizing the biggest climate mobilization that the West Coast has ever seen.
The whole world is invited to rise up in their own communities. Rise up for what's local. Rise up for what you love.
I'm rising on September 8th because I believe that our voices should be heard and heeded by the leaders meeting for the Global Climate Action Summit.
We are rising because South Africa shows true climate leadership.
I'm rising because the Pacific will show the world what true climate leadership is.
Rise for climate, jobs and justice. And
I rise. I rise. I rise.
The encyclical is indeed a timely response to one of the most urgent challenges faced by humanity today, a possible collapse of the very home that sustains us and all forms of life.
I believe that climate change is a battle that will be won or lost at the grassroots, not in plenary halls. And therefore, local leaders play a big role in making that happen.
He has said explicitly that citizen pressure will help drive more ambition.
us in the Pacific, and me and Samoa with our Team 350 Samoa will be getting pledges from our churches to say that they will be taking steps to go solar or steps to go renewable.
Whether I'm in San Francisco joining people in the streets or anywhere else in the world, I will spread the word. I will spread the message of hope and courage.
We hope that everybody is out in the streets on the 8th of September rising for climate. I'll be in California at the big march, but there's going to be marches like it all over the world and people figuring out other ways to rise up.
On the 8th of September, we rise.
We rise. We rise.
Rise with us.
Rise with us.
When hatred paid a visit to Pittsburgh this morning, it led to one of the deadliest attacks on the Jewish community in U.S. history and punched a gaping hole in a religious enclave known for faith and fellowship.
It's such a well-meaning community, a religious community, friends, and to see this penetrate that community is I don't say jarring. I'm just shaken.
Pleaded with residents today to speak up if they know who's behind another deadly weekend of gun violence. At least 66 people were shot, 12 died. Dean Reynolds is there.
Multiple shots fired at 1620 Beavers, and still positive looks like there's a few people down.
Crime scene tape marked block after block of Chicago's most violent neighborhoods this weekend.
81st and Fairfield, they said they heard 15 shots.
Everybody in this city should be tired of it.
Leaving the city's leaders deep in frustration.
This is not
We have breaking news about that deadly mass shooting in a Southern California bar and country music venue. The Ventura County Sheriff says a gunman opened fire inside as it was crowded with more than 100 people, many of them college students. He killed 12 people, including a sheriff's sergeant who was responding to the scene. Police found the shooter dead inside, and they reportedly have identified
him. A butcher
him.
knife, pizza cutter, scissors. These are some of the weapons an 11 and 12-year-old brought to Bartow Middle School on Tuesday to allegedly kill classmates.
They wanted to kill at least 15 people and were waiting in the bathroom for the opportunity to find smaller kids that they could overpower to be their victims.
Extra officers were already on campus after another student reported concerns on Monday. But police tell us the plot was foiled only after one of the girl's mother called in when a robocall said she skipped school.
This is horrific, and if I had children in school, I'd be scared slapped to death.
Officers found them in the bathroom with a goblet on hand to reportedly drink their victim's blood.
I mean, how can this happen, you know? We're afraid, and she's afraid.
I kind of feel like maybe it might be a good idea just for some of these schools to maybe even put in metal detectors.
Messages appear to show the girls planned the murders and even to kill themselves when it was done.
I'm going to call them small children. They're only 11 and 12. Seriously sat down and plotted to do serious bodily harm to another student.
Let me tell you about Jonas. Jonas is a pedophile. He's only attracted to female children between the ages of 6 and 12 years. Anyone could be born a pedophile. No one chooses to be a pedophile. No one can cease being one. We can make Jonas feel that he stays a valuable member of our society, although he's a pedophile. It is in our responsibility to reflect and to overcome our negative feelings about pedophiles and to treat them with the same respect we treat other people with. We should accept that pedophiles are people who have not chosen their sexuality. We should accept that pedophilia is a sexual preference.
Teen Vogue recently released an opinion article claiming abortion can be funny. That's the topic for this week's Speak Out segment. The outlet released a July article titled Lady Parts Justice League Fights Anti-Abortion Stigma with Humor. The op-ed writer is a member of what she calls a grassroots, comedy-driven pro-abortion organization. The so-called comedy group tours around in a van hosting shows, barbecues, and parties to, quote, celebrate abortion. Part of the goal, according to the writer, is to normalize the abortion procedure.
Moving on to our top international story this hour, we are following some disturbing news out of the tech world. As this week, the Confederation of British Industry, or CBI, issued a warning about the future of microchips in the workplace. According to The Guardian, a British company has already fitted 150 implants in the UK. You might be thinking such concerns sound hyperbolic, but you would actually be sadly mistaken. Believe it or not, companies have already started microchipping employees. For example, a cafeteria kiosk producer in River Falls, Wisconsin, chipped employees last year.
There are governments that run central banks. They were one of the first ones to call us to say that we've got to control our employees and we need to have certain access levels and we can't have that compromise, and they saw that as a solution. They need that. They need those controls.
Dictator Kim Jong-un has invited Pope Francis to North Korea in an effort to highlight his peace efforts in the Korean peninsula. The invitation to the Pope is the first by a North Korean leader since 2000. North Korea and the Vatican have no formal diplomatic relations, and the Vatican had no immediate comment.
This weekend, the Vatican announced a historic agreement between the Catholic Church and China on the appointment of bishops. The diplomatic breakthrough could open the door for a papal visit to China.
The Holy See agreed to one of the main points pushed by Beijing, recognizing 8 bishops, one of them deceased, who'd been appointed by the Communist Party, but had been, until now, excommunicated from the Church. Vatican Secretary of State said the Church is pushing for unity.
Today, for the first time, all the bishops in China are in communion with the Bishop of Rome.
Les gilets jaunes.
Les gilets jaunes. Les gilets jaunes.
Well, happening right now, the Colorado Department of Health is considering a big change to state birth certificates. The change comes after years of debate by lawmakers and a civil lawsuit filed by a 13-year-old who wanted to change his gender. Denver 7's Megan Lopez is joining live. And Megan, what happened here? Did they pass it?
They just passed it within the last 5 minutes, Mitch. I actually just ran out of that meeting itself. So this State Board of Health did something that Colorado lawmakers for years could not seem to agree on, and that's go ahead and change the way that you can designate yourself on a birth certificate in 2 ways. So here's an explainer of how that's going to work. From 2 options to 4, an operation to a simple form. At the Colorado State Board of Health today, a big change is underway. Under a new proposal, birth certificates could soon have 4 options for people: male, female, X, and intersex.
Sunday in the park with 10-year-old Desmond Napolis. This is one of his favorite playgrounds.
Desmond is amazing!
And this is the other.
You've done lots of interviews lately.
Yeah.
How come?
I don't know. I guess it's because I'm so famous and such an inspiration to so many people.
An inspiration to so many people.
You've heard of drag queens. Well, Desmond is a self-described drag kid. When this Brooklyn 5th grader isn't in school, he's doing photo shoots and runway shows. He's already been profiled in Vogue and even has his own drag name. Desmond is amazing.
You're pretty good at walking the runway.
Definitely.
Why do you think you're so good at it?
Natural born talent.
Desmond, are you transgender?
No.
Do you identify as gay, though? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When did you come out?
Ever since I was born.
In America, you would never think that the Bible could be banned, but that's in fact what could happen in California if AB 2943 passes. This bill would prevent so-called conversion therapy, sometimes referred to as sexual orientation change efforts, and add it to the list of fraudulent schemes under the state's Consumer Legal Remedies Act.
AB 2943 declares advertising offering to engage in or engaging in sexual orientation change efforts with an individual is fraudulent business practices. If approved, victims of sexual abuse could no longer get counsel if they develop, as often happens, unwanted urges to engage in same-sex behavior or become gender confused. This bill would also make it unlawful for any person to sell books, including the Bible, counseling services, or anything else that directs people to trust in Jesus Christ to help them overcome unwanted same-sex attractions or gender confusion.